They found her broken body at dawn, shattered against the stones beneath Blackthorn Tower. The Duke's bride-to-be. Dead at 22. Everyone believed the lies, everyone except him. But here's what they didn't know. Elena Virel didn't fall. She was pushed. By the one woman who smiled sweetest at the engagement party, and 3 years later, when that same woman tries to steal everything Elena should have had, the dead girl is going to walk back through those cathedral doors and burn their perfect lies to ash. This is the story of how she did it. Stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The ballroom at Blackthorn Estate glittered like someone had trapped stars under glass. Elena Virel stood near the terrace doors, champagne flute trembling slightly in her hand, trying to remember how to breathe like a normal person. 22 years old and engaged to a duke. It felt like wearing someone else's life. "You look terrified," Adrian said beside her, voice low enough that only she could hear. She glanced up at him. Adrian Halcroft, Duke of Thornmere, all sharp jawline and darker than midnight eyes that seemed to catch every flicker of candlelight. He wasn't smiling, but there was something warm in the corner of his mouth, almost gentle. "I'm not terrified," Elena lied. "Your hand is shaking." "That's the champagne. It's cold." "Elena," she exhaled. "Fine. I'm a little terrified. Happy?" This time he did smile. Small, but real. "Better. I was starting to think you'd been replaced by one of those porcelain dolls from the drawing room." "The ones with the dead eyes?" "Those exactly." Elena laughed despite herself, and some of the tightness in her chest loosened. That was the thing about Adrian. He never treated her like fragile china the way everyone else did. Never spoke to her in that careful, patronizing tone her stepmother used, like Elena was one wrong word away from shattering. "They're staring at us," she murmured. "They've been staring all night." "Does it ever stop feeling strange?" Adrian's expression shifted, something darker sliding across it. "No. You just get better at ignoring them." Before Elena could respond, a wave of silk and perfume descended. "There you are!" Lady Seraphine Virel appeared at Elena's elbow, all elegant smiles and perfectly arranged honey-blonde curls. Her stepmother. "Darling, Lord Ashford has been asking for you. He wants to congratulate you personally." Elena forced her own smile into place. "Of course." Seraphine's hand landed on Elena's arm, fingers pressing just a fraction too tight. To anyone watching, it looked affectionate. Elena felt the warning in it. "I'll find you later," Adrian said quietly. As he moved away into the crowd, Seraphine's smile never wavered, but her voice dropped. "You've been hiding by the doors for 20 minutes. People will talk." "I needed air." "You need to circulate. This entire evening is about you, Elena. The least you can do is act grateful." There it was. That particular edge Seraphine had perfected over the years, sharp enough to cut, wrapped in silk. Elena had learned young that the worst wounds came with smiles attached. "I am grateful," Elena said carefully. "Then show it." Seraphine's fingers tightened once more before releasing. "Come. Lord Ashford is waiting." The next hour blurred into a parade of faces Elena barely knew, all offering congratulations that felt rehearsed. She smiled until her cheeks ached, laughed at jokes she didn't find funny, accepted embraces from women who'd never spoken to her before tonight. Through it all, Seraphine orchestrated everything with terrifying precision. A word here, a gentle touch there, steering Elena like a chess piece across the board. Look radiant. Don't fidget. Smile at Lord Pemberton. His wife controls half the textile imports in the Southern Territories. Elena's own mother had died when she was 8. Sometimes she could barely remember her face. Just fragments, warm hands, a voice that sang old lullabies, the scent of lavender. Her father had remarried within 2 years, bringing Seraphine and her daughter Celeste into their lives. Celeste was 19 now, standing near the refreshment table in a gown the color of spring roses. She caught Elena's eye and offered a small, genuine smile. Unlike her mother, Celeste had always been kind. Quiet, but kind. Elena started toward her, grateful for the prospect of a real conversation, but Seraphine materialized again. "Not now, darling. The Duke's aunt wishes to speak with you." Stepmother, Elena. The name came out like a door closing. The Duke's aunt. So Elena followed, swallowing frustration, and spent another 15 minutes being evaluated by a woman who looked at her like she was livestock at market. When she finally escaped, she didn't head back into the ballroom. Instead, she slipped through the terrace doors and out into the October night. The air hit her like cold water. She gasped it in, leaning against the stone balustrade, letting the music and laughter fade to a distant hum. The gardens spread below, silver touched by moonlight. Beyond them, the old tower rose dark against the stars. Blackthorn Tower. It had been part of the original estate built centuries ago. Now it was mostly forgotten, used for storage. Elena closed her eyes and just breathed. Running away? She spun. Adrian stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets, tie slightly loosened. He looked tired. You scared me, she said. Sorry. He stepped out onto the terrace, leaving the door ajar behind him. I saw you slip out. Wanted to make sure you were all right. I'm fine. Just needed a minute. He came to stand beside her, both of them facing the gardens. For a while, neither spoke. My mother used to hate these things, Adrian said eventually. She'd hide in the library and send my father to make excuses. Elena smiled. Smart woman. She was. His voice carried something heavy. She died when I was 16. Father followed a year later. I'm sorry. Adrian shrugged, but the gesture looked wrong on him. Too casual for the weight behind it. You learn to carry it. The grief. It doesn't get lighter. You just get stronger. Elena thought of her own mother. 8 years old, standing at a graveside, not understanding why everyone kept saying she was at rest when all Elena wanted was for her to wake up. Does it help? She asked quietly. Getting stronger? Adrian looked at her then, really looked, and something passed between them. Understanding, maybe. Recognition. Sometimes, he said, the moment stretched, comfortable and strange all at once, until voices drifted from inside. Someone calling for the Duke. Adrian sighed. Duty calls. Go. I'll be in soon. He hesitated. Elena, I'm fine. Really. He studied her face like he was trying to read something written there, then nodded. 5 minutes. Then I'm sending a search party. Yes, Your Grace. Don't call me that. Yes, Adrian. He smiled, actually smiled, full and genuine, and headed back inside. Elena waited until the door closed, then turned back to the gardens. 5 minutes. She could have 5 minutes to herself before diving back into the performance. The sound of footsteps on stone made her tense. I said I'd be in soon, she started, but the voice that answered wasn't Adrian's. You looked beautiful tonight, Elena. Seraphine. Elena turned slowly. Her stepmother stood near the tower entrance, partially shadowed. The light from the ballroom caught the edges of her gown, made her look almost ethereal. Thank you, Elena said carefully. Seraphine walked forward, heels clicking against stone. I wanted a moment alone with you before everything changes. Something in her tone made Elena's skin prickle. All right. Do you know what I see when I look at you? Seraphine stopped a few feet away, close enough to touch. I see your mother. Elena blinked. Seraphine never mentioned her mother. In 10 years of marriage to Elena's father, she'd maybe spoken of the First Lady Varel 3 times. You have her eyes, Seraphine continued, that same soft, trusting look. Like the world is fundamentally good and people mean what they say. Stepmother, I don't understand. Your mother was a fool, Elena. The words came out flat, matter of fact. She had everything, title, wealth, a husband who adored her, and she wasted it on charity work and playing Lady Bountiful to tenants who would have robbed her blind given half a chance. She died because she was too stupid to take care of herself, riding out in a storm to deliver medicine to some farmer's child. For what? So she could feel noble? Elena's breath caught. Don't talk about her like that. I'll talk about her however I please. Seraphine's smile was razor thin. Do you want to know the real tragedy? Your father loved her so much that when she died, he couldn't see straight. So he married me, a practical choice, a woman who understood how the world actually works. And I have spent 10 years cleaning up the mess your sainted mother left behind. That's not true. Isn't it? Seraphine took another step closer. I turned this estate around. I rebuilt your father's reputation. I taught you how to move in society, how to speak, how to be more than some romantic fool who thinks love conquers all. And tonight you get to marry a duke because of the work I put in. Elena's hands had gone numb. What are you saying? I'm saying you're welcome. Seraphine's voice stayed perfectly level, perfectly calm. I'm saying that every good thing in your life exists because I made it possible. And I'm saying that I'm tired, Elena. So very tired of watching you stumble through life like it's some fairy tale. I never asked. You never had to ask. That's the privilege of being the real daughter, of having his name, his blood, his love. Something cracked in Seraphine's voice. Just a hairline fracture, but it was there. My Celeste is twice the woman you are. Smarter, more capable, more deserving. But she'll never have what you were simply born into. Do you know how that feels? Watching your daughter be overlooked for someone else's child? Elena's heart was hammering now. Seraphine, what are you? I'm telling you the truth. Her stepmother's smile widened, but her eyes stayed dead. Something your mother probably never did. The world isn't kind to the merciful. Elena, it eats them alive. She moved fast. Elena barely registered it. One moment Seraphine was 3 feet away, the next her hands were on Elena's shoulders, shoving hard. Elena's back hit the balustrade. Stop! Another shove, harder. The stone dug into Elena's spine as she bent backward over the edge. Below, the drop yawned dark and infinite. Stepmother, please, you were never meant to have this. Seraphine's face was close now, and there was something almost gentle in her expression, like she was tucking a child into bed. This future, this life, it should have been Celeste, but you and your mother, you both always got in the way. Elena's fingers scrabbled for purchase, finding only smooth stone and silk. Don't do this. I wish I didn't have to. And Seraphine sounded almost sincere. But you'll ruin everything if you stay. You're too soft, too weak. You'll waste everything I built, just like your mother wasted everything she had. Please, it won't hurt long, Seraphine whispered. And everyone will believe it was an accident. Poor Elena, so overwhelmed by the engagement, the pressure, the attention. She must have felt faint, came out for air, got too close to the edge. Elena tried to scream, but Seraphine's hand was over her mouth now. Shh. The music is lovely, isn't it? They won't hear a thing. One final push. Elena's fingers slipped. The world tilted. And then she was falling. The last thing she saw was Seraphine's face above, watching her drop, expression peaceful as a painted saint. Then the darkness swallowed her whole. The impact should have killed her. Later, doctors would call it a miracle, a statistical impossibility. Elena Varel fell 40 feet from Blackthorn Tower and lived, but not because of miracles. She hit the ancient oak tree first. Branches that should have broken her back instead caught her, slowed her, turned her fatal plunge into something merely catastrophic. She crashed through leaves and wood and landed in the pond at the tree's base, the water swallowing her before she could drown in her own blood. Rowan Hale found her purely by accident. He'd been cutting through the estate grounds, a shortcut he'd taken 100 times despite the no trespassing signs. Rowan didn't have much respect for signs, or nobility, or rules in general. He was 26, a carpenter by trade when he could find work, and thoroughly uninvited to the Duke's engagement party. He'd heard the music from a mile away and actively avoided it. Rich people celebrating rich things held zero appeal. But then he'd heard the splash. At first he thought it was an animal, maybe a deer, but when he got closer and saw the pale fabric floating in the dark water, his stomach dropped. Shit. Rowan didn't think. He just moved. The water was freezing, October cold, and he nearly lost his footing twice. But he got his arms around her, whoever she was, and dragged her to the bank. Her face was ghost white in the moonlight. Blood ran from her hairline matted in dark gold hair. Her left arm bent wrong. Her breathing came in wet, rattling gasps. Hey, can you hear me? No response. Rowan pressed his fingers to her throat. Pulse. Faint, but there. Okay, you're not dying on me." He looked toward the estate. Lights and music and hundreds of people who could help. He could run there, get someone, bring them back. But something stopped him. The angle she'd fallen, the position of the tower, and most damning, the fact that she was wearing a ball gown. Nobody came out here by accident dressed like that. Rowan had grown up in the shadow of estates like Blackthorn. He knew how the world worked for people who had nothing, and he knew what happened when poor bastards asked inconvenient questions. If someone had pushed her, and his gut said someone had, then running to the house for help might get her killed for real this time. "All right," he muttered. "Guess we're doing this the hard way." He got his arms under her as carefully as he could, trying not to jostle the obviously broken bones, and lifted. She weighed almost nothing, like a bird. Rowan's cottage was 2 miles away. He made it in 20 minutes, lungs burning, arms screaming, the unconscious girl's blood soaking into his shirt. He kicked open his door, carried her to his bed, and laid her down as gently as possible. Then he stood there, breathing hard, staring at what he'd just done. He'd stolen the Duke's bride-to-be. This was either the stupidest or the smartest decision of his life, and Rowan genuinely didn't know which. The girl's breathing hitched, her eyes flickered but didn't open. "Right," Rowan said to himself. "First things first. Don't let her die." He got to work. Back at Blackthorn Estate, the party continued. Adrian Halcroft stood near the ballroom's center, half listening to Lord Pemberton drone about grain tariffs when something cold slithered down his spine. He didn't know what it was. Just a feeling. Wrong. "Excuse me," he said, cutting Pemberton off mid-sentence. He moved through the crowd, searching. Elena should have come back inside by now. She'd said 5 minutes. Adrian reached the terrace doors, stepped outside. Empty. "Elena?" No answer, just the garden wind and distant music. He walked to the balustrade, looked down at the grounds. Nothing moved in the shadows. But that feeling, that cold, crawling wrongness, didn't fade. Adrian went back inside and found Lady Seraphine near the champagne fountain, speaking with the Duke's aunt. "Have you seen Elena?" he asked. Seraphine turned, eyebrows lifting in delicate surprise. "I thought she was with you, Your Grace." "She was on the terrace. Now she's not." "Oh dear." Seraphine pressed a hand to her chest, the picture of maternal concern. "She must have gone to powder her nose. You know how young girls are. All this attention can be overwhelming." Adrian's jaw tightened. Something about Seraphine's tone set his teeth on edge, but he couldn't pin down why. "If you see her, tell her I'm looking for her." "Of course." He searched for another 10 minutes. The library, the drawing rooms, the smoking lounge, nothing. By the time he returned to the ballroom, genuine worry had settled in his chest like a stone. "Your Grace," one of the servants approached, face pale. "Sir, we found something." They found her shoe first, a delicate satin slipper lying on the ground beneath Blackthorn Tower, then the blood on the stones, then the disturbed earth near the pond. But no body. Adrian stood at the base of the tower, staring at the evidence of violence, and felt the world tilt. "Search the grounds, Shah," he said. His voice sounded far away. "Now." Men scattered, torches lit, voices calling Elena's name echoed across the gardens. Seraphine arrived with Elena's father, Lord Edmund Virel. The older man looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. "What happened?" Edmund's voice broke. "Where is she?" "We don't know yet," Adrian said. The words tasted like ash. Seraphine made a sound, soft, wounded. "The tower, she must have. Oh, that poor child. She was so nervous tonight. I should have watched her more closely." Adrian looked at her, really looked. Seraphine met his gaze with red-rimmed eyes, the perfect image of a stepmother's grief. But something flickered beneath it. Just for a second. Something that looked almost like satisfaction. "Find her," Adrian said to the searchers. "Turn over every stone. I want her found, now." They searched until dawn. They found nothing. The official story spread like wildfire. Lady Elena Virel, overcome by nerves and champagne, had wandered too close to the tower's edge and fallen to her death. Her body, likely carried away by the stream that fed the pond, had not yet been recovered. The estate went into mourning. Adrian went to war. He didn't believe it, refused to. Every instinct screamed that something was wrong, that Elena wouldn't have been that careless, that the angles didn't add up. But he had no proof, just a shoe, some blood, and a terrible certainty in his gut. The engagement was cancelled, obviously. The Duke of Thornmere withdrew from society, focusing on his estate affairs with an intensity that bordered on obsession. And Seraphine Varel became the devoted stepmother who'd lost her dear girl to tragedy. She comforted Lord Edmund. She organized the memorial service. She made sure everyone remembered poor, sweet Elena. 3 months later, she began the careful, patient work of steering her daughter Celeste into the Duke's path. She had time. She had patience. She had won, or so she thought. 2 miles away, in a cottage that smelled of sawdust and wood smoke, Elena Varel woke up screaming. Rowan was at her side in seconds, hands raised. "Hey, hey, you're safe! You're safe!" Elena's eyes were wild, unfocused. She tried to move and gasped, pain lancing through her ribs. "Don't move," Rowan said quickly. "You've got broken bones. 3 ribs, your left arm, probably your collarbone. You've been out for 2 days." She stared at him. "Who?" "Rowan Hale. I pulled you out of the pond." He kept his voice calm, steady. "You fell from the tower. Or someone pushed you. I'm guessing pushed, based on the angles, but either way you nearly died." Elena's breathing was coming too fast. Panic attack, Rowan recognized. "Breathe," he said. "Slow, in through your nose, out through your mouth, that's it." It took 5 minutes before she could speak again. "They'll be looking for me," she whispered. "They were. They gave up. Stream probably carried your body away," they said. "There was a memorial service yesterday." Her face went slack. "They think I'm dead." "Yeah. I have to tell them, no." Rowan's voice hardened. "Think about it. Someone pushed you. Someone at that party wanted you dead. You go back now, they'll finish the job. The Duke, Adrian, he'd protect me. Would he?" Rowan leaned forward. "I don't know you, and I don't know him. But I know that someone with power and access pushed you off that tower and walked away clean. You really want to bet your life on who you can trust?" Elena's eyes filled with tears. "I can't just hide. Not forever. But right now, yeah, you can." She looked at him, really looked, for the first time, taking in the rough cottage, the simple clothes, the calloused hands. "Why are you helping me?" Rowan sat back. "Honestly, I don't know. Maybe because leaving you to die felt wrong. Maybe because rich bastards get away with too much already. Take your pick." Elena closed her eyes. Tears slid down her temples. "She pushed me," she whispered. "My stepmother. She pushed me." And Rowan Hale, carpenter and cynic, who'd never believed in anything resembling justice, made a decision. "Then we make her pay for it." Elena's eyes opened. "How?" Rowan smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Carefully. The first month was just survival. Elena's body knitted itself back together with agonizing slowness. Rowan set her bones as best he could. He'd learned field medicine from his father, who'd been a military surgeon before drinking himself to death. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. He brought her food, changed her bandages, helped her to the washroom when she couldn't walk alone, always turning his back, giving her what dignity he could. He didn't ask questions, didn't push. And slowly, Elena began to trust him. "Why don't you have family?" she asked one night, watching him cook something that smelled like burned vegetables. "Had a sister once," Rowan said. "She died. Father followed. Mother left when I was 6, so it's just me. I'm sorry." "Don't be. Made me self-sufficient." He glanced over his shoulder. "What about you? Father's still alive?" Elena nodded. "He loved my mother. Really loved her. After she died, he checked out, I think. Seraphine handled everything. He just let her. And you? I was 8. I didn't understand what was happening until it was too late. Rowan brought her a plate. Stew that looked like mud but tasted better than it looked. You understand now? Yes. Good. Understanding keeps you alive. By the second month, Elena could walk on her own. The nightmares came every night, falling, Seraphine's face watching her drop. But she stopped screaming when she woke. Rowan found her a mirror one day. Elena stared at her reflection and barely recognized the woman looking back. Thinner, harder. Her hair had grown out, losing its careful styling. Her eyes looked older. I look different, she said. You survived dying, Rowan replied. Changes a person. I need to go back. Not yet. When? He considered. When you're strong enough to win. So Elena got stronger. She helped Rowan with his carpentry work, building calluses on her soft hands. She learned to move quietly, to watch, to listen. She stopped flinching at loud noises, and she planned. Seraphine will have covered her tracks, Elena said one evening. They were sitting outside watching the sun set. She's too smart to leave evidence. Everyone leaves evidence, Rowan countered. You just need to know where to look. She'll have my father convinced it was an accident. She'll control the narrative. So you change the narrative. How? Rowan looked at her. By being patient. By waiting for the right moment. By making sure that when you strike, it's final. Elena thought about that. About patience. About revenge. About justice. How long? She asked quietly. However long it takes. Turned out it took 3 years. 3 years was a long time to be dead. Elena learned to wear it like armor. The knowledge that Elena Varel, the Duke's almost bride, was gone. Mourned. Forgotten. It freed her in ways she hadn't expected. The girl who'd fallen from that tower would have hesitated, would have apologized, would have waited for permission to exist. The woman who survived didn't wait for anything. You're gripping the chisel wrong, Rowan said behind her. Elena adjusted her hold without looking up, focusing on the wood beneath her hands. She was carving a chair leg, replacing one that had cracked. 6 months ago, she would have called it impossible. Now her hands knew the grain, knew where to press and where to yield. Better, Rowan admitted. High praise from you? Don't get used to it. She smiled despite herself. Rowan's cottage had become something like home, cramped, drafty, smelling of pine shavings and the herb garden she'd planted behind the house. She'd learned to cook on his ancient stove, learned to mend clothes with thread that kept breaking, learned that survival wasn't noble or beautiful. It just was. Letter came today, Rowan said, tossing an envelope onto the workbench. Elena's hands stilled. They'd set up a system months ago. Rowan had contacts in the city, people who owed him favors or needed his discretion. Information flowed slowly but steadily. News from Blackthorn Estate, updates on her father, and most importantly, intelligence on Seraphine. She set down the chisel and opened the envelope. The handwriting inside was cramped, efficient. Marcus Webb, one of Rowan's former apprentices who now worked as a footman at the estate, had written it. Lady Seraphine continues preparations for the Duke's visit next month. Your father's health declines. He rarely leaves his study. Miss Celeste has been fitted for 3 new gowns this week, all in shades the Duke is rumored to favor. The staff whispers about an announcement soon. Elena read it twice, then handed it to Rowan. He scanned the contents, expression neutral. She's moving faster. It's been 3 years. She thinks she's safe. She probably is safe. Unless you're planning to walk back in there with no proof and a ghost story. Elena's jaw tightened. That was the problem, wasn't it? She'd survived. She knew the truth. But knowing and proving were different beasts entirely. I need to get inside the estate, she said. We've discussed this. I know what we discussed. But sitting here carving furniture while Seraphine marries my sister off to Adrian isn't a plan. Rowan, it's cowardice. It's patience. It's watching her win. Rowan set the letter down, studying her face. 3 years of working side by side had made him sharp at reading her moods. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that Seraphine keeps records. She's too meticulous not to. Every transaction, every arrangement, every lie, she'll have documentation somewhere, probably in her study. Well, so you want to break into a guarded estate and rifle through your stepmother's private papers on the off chance she kept receipts for attempted murder? Yes. That's insane. You have a better idea? Rowan opened his mouth, then closed it. He didn't, and they both knew it. Elena stood pacing the small workshop. She pushed me because she wanted Celeste to have my life. Fine. But she couldn't just make me disappear. Too many questions. So she manufactured an accident. That takes planning. Probably took bribes. Maybe she paid someone to clean up evidence or bought silence from a servant who saw something. Money leaves trails. Rich people are good at hiding trails. Seraphine's good, but she's not perfect. She'll have made a mistake somewhere. I just need to find it. Rowan leaned against the workbench, arms crossed. And if you get caught, I won't. Elena, I won't, she repeated, harder this time. I've spent 3 years learning to move quietly, to watch, to plan. You taught me that, so trust that I learned. Something flickered across Rowan's face. Pride, maybe, or concern, possibly both. When? He asked finally. The Duke's visit. Everyone will be focused on the reception. Security will be watching the main house, not Seraphine's private wing. That's 2 weeks away? Then we have 2 weeks to prepare. Rowan exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. You're going to get yourself killed. I've already died once. Second time can't be worse. He didn't laugh. This isn't a joke. I know. Elena met his eyes. But I can't stay hidden forever, Rowan. Eventually, I have to take my life back. And that starts with proving what she did. The next 2 weeks moved like a held breath. Elena prepared with the kind of focus that would have surprised her old self. She mapped the estate from memory, sketching layouts of the main house, the gardens, the servants' corridors she'd rarely noticed as a child. Rowan added details. His father had worked there briefly, and some things didn't change. They planned entry points, exit routes, contingencies. Marcus sent 2 more letters. The Duke would arrive on the 15th. Seraphine was hosting a dinner that evening, small, intimate, just the Duke, her father, Celeste, and a handful of influential nobles, the perfect distraction. You'll need different clothes, Rowan said one evening. The way you move now, it's not how ladies move. You'll stand out. Elena glanced down at herself. He was right. 3 years of manual labor had changed her. She was leaner, harder, her hands calloused and scarred. She stood differently, walked differently. The soft girl who'd worn silk gowns was gone. I'm not going as a lady, she said. I'm going as a servant. Rowan raised an eyebrow. Bold. Invisible. Servants are invisible. You know how to act like one? Elena thought about all the time she'd watched chambermaids navigate the estate, heads down, shoulders curved, making themselves small. I can learn. So she did. She practiced carrying heavy trays without spilling, perfected the art of looking busy while listening to everything, learned to bob a curtsy that communicated deference without groveling. Rowan watched these transformations with something approaching awe. You're different, he said one night. I had a good teacher. I taught you carpentry, not this. He gestured vaguely at her. Elena understood what he meant. The girl he'd pulled from the pond had been broken, terrified, clinging to survival by her fingernails. The woman standing before him now had edges, had purpose. Pain teaches better than kindness, she said quietly. You taught me to survive. Seraphine taught me to be ruthless. Between the two of you, I might actually pull this off. And if you find proof, what then? Then I burn her world down. Chesan. The night of the Duca's visit arrived cold and clear. Elena stood at the edge of Blackthorn Estate's grounds, wearing a borrowed servant's dress and apron. Her hair was pinned up severely, her face deliberately smudged with dirt. Marcus had left a side door unlocked, as promised. Last chance to back out, Rowan whispered beside her. I'm not backing out. Didn't think so, just had to say it. Elena looked at him, really looked. 3 years ago, he'd been a stranger. Now, he was the only person in the world she trusted completely. If I don't come out, you'll come out. But if I don't, Elena. Rowan's hand caught her arm. You'll come out, because you're too stubborn to let that woman win. Now go. She went. The side entrance led to the servants' corridor, narrow and dimly lit. Elena's heart hammered as she slipped inside, but her hand stayed steady. She'd memorized the route. Third door on the left, up the back staircase, through the linen closet that connected to the main house. She passed two chambermaids who barely glanced at her. A footman carrying wine bottles nodded absently. Invisible, just as she'd planned. The main house hummed with controlled chaos. Dinner preparation was underway. She could smell roasted meat, hear the clatter of dishes. Voices drifted from the dining room. Elena kept moving, head down, pace measured. Not too fast, not too slow. Seraphine's study was in the east wing, away from the reception areas. Elena climbed the servants' stairs, emerging into a hallway she remembered from childhood. The carpet runner was new, but the portraits on the walls were the same. Her mother's portrait had been removed. Elena's chest tightened, but she kept walking. Third door on the right. Seraphine's private study. She tested the handle. Locked. Of course it was locked. Elena pulled two thin metal picks from her sleeve. Rowan had taught her this too, though he'd made her promise never to tell him where she planned to use the skill. The lock was good quality, but not impossible. 30 seconds. The mechanism clicked. Elena slipped inside and closed the door behind her. The study was exactly as she remembered, meticulously organized, everything in its place. A large desk dominated the room, flanked by floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. Ledgers and correspondence stacked neatly. A portrait of Celeste hung above the fireplace. Elena moved to the desk, fingers skimming over papers. Bills of sale, social invitations, nothing incriminating. She tried the drawers. Locked. The picks came out again. These locks were trickier, smaller. Her hands wanted to shake, but she forced them still. The first drawer held stationery, the second receipts for household expenses. The third drawer stuck. Elena frowned, examining it more closely. The drawer was shallower than the others. She pressed the back panel experimentally. It clicked. A false bottom. Of course! Elena's pulse jumped as she removed the panel. Inside lay a leather-bound journal and a small wooden box. She opened the journal first. Seraphine's handwriting filled the pages, dates, names, amounts. Elena's eyes scanned quickly, picking out familiar names. Lord Ashford, the estate physician, a groundskeeper, payments, all made in the weeks following Elena's death. Her hands trembled now as she read. November 3rd, Dr. Whitmore, 200 pounds. Silence regarding examination. November 5th, Ashford, 500 pounds. Testimony regarding Elena's nervous disposition. November 10th, Garrett, groundskeeper, 100 pounds. Disposed of evidence near pond. Evidence. She'd paid someone to clean up evidence. Elena's vision blurred. This was it. Proof that Seraphine had orchestrated everything. She turned to the wooden box. Inside, wrapped in velvet, was a ring. Elena's engagement ring. The one she'd been wearing the night of the fall. The one that should have been lost with her body. But Seraphine had it, had kept it like a trophy. Rage, white-hot and absolute, flooded through Elena. Her fingers closed around the ring, squeezing until the metal bit into her palm. Footsteps in the hallway. Elena froze. Voices. Getting closer. Just need to retrieve the dinner seating chart, Seraphine was saying. I'll only be a moment. No. Elena's mind raced. The window, too high. The door, suicide. Under the desk, too obvious. The bookshelf. She moved fast, shoving the journal and box into her apron, then squeezed behind the tall bookshelf in the corner. It didn't quite reach the wall, leaving a gap barely wide enough for a person. The door opened. Elena held her breath, pressing herself flat against the wall. Seraphine entered, heels clicking across hardwood. Another voice followed, male, familiar. Adrian. The arrangements are beautiful, the Duke was saying. You've outdone yourself. You're too kind. Your Grace. Seraphine's voice dripped warmth. Though I must confess I had extra motivation this evening. Oh? Elena watched through the narrow gap as Seraphine moved to her desk, rifling through papers. Adrian stood near the door, hands clasped behind his back. He looked different, older, harder. 3 years had carved lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. Celeste has been so looking forward to your visit, Seraphine continued. She speaks of you often. Your daughter is lovely. She reminds me so much of Elena sometimes. Seraphine's voice caught delicately. The same gentle spirit, the same kindness. Elena's nails dug into her palms. Adrian's expression didn't change. I'm sure she's nothing like Elena. Something in his tone made Seraphine pause. Your Grace? Elena was unique. Adrian's voice stayed level, but there was steel underneath. Attempting to replace her seems unwise. Seraphine's smile faltered, just slightly. Of course. I didn't mean to suggest. I know exactly what you meant to suggest, Lady Seraphine. Your efforts have been noted and appreciated, but I'm not here to discuss marriage prospects. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. I see, Seraphine said carefully. Then might I ask why you are here? Closure. Adrian moved further into the room, and Elena's breath caught. He was 10 feet away. If he turned, if he looked, I never believed Elena's death was an accident, he continued. I still don't. Seraphine went very still. Your Grace, the investigation. Found nothing, I'm aware, but I've spent 3 years asking questions, quietly, carefully. Adrian picked up a small statue from the desk, examining it. Curious thing about money. It leaves traces, especially when spent in suspicious quantities shortly after a tragedy. Elena could see Seraphine's reflection in the window glass. Her face had gone mask-like. I'm not sure what you're implying, Seraphine said. I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. Adrian set the statue down with deliberate care. Someone paid the physician to falsify his report. Someone paid Lord Ashford to testify about Elena's mental state. Someone paid a groundskeeper to dispose of evidence. That's absurd. Who would? I don't know yet. Adrian turned to face her fully. But I will find out. And when I do, I will ensure they face appropriate consequences. The silence that followed was suffocating. The truth always surfaces, Lady Seraphine. Always. You do well to remember that. Adrian walked to the door, paused. Thank you for the dinner invitation. Please give Celeste my apologies, but I'm afraid I can't stay. Business has called me away urgently. He left. Seraphine stood frozen for a long moment. Then slowly, she moved to the desk drawer Elena had searched. She opened it, checked the false bottom. Her face went white. No, 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 no. She tore through the study, opening drawers, checking shelves. When she found nothing, her composure cracked completely. A sound escaped her, half sob, half scream of pure rage. She grabbed the statue Adrian had touched and hurled it against the wall. It shattered. Clever bastard, she hissed. Clever, clever bastard. But Elena knew the truth. Adrian hadn't taken the journal. She had. Seraphine stormed from the room, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. Elena waited, counting heartbeats. 5 minutes. 10. When she was certain Seraphine wouldn't return, she slipped from behind the bookshelf. Her legs shook, her heart hammered. But she had what she came for. The journal. The ring. Proof. Now she just had to get out alive. The return journey was a blur of hallways and held breath. Elena moved through the servants' corridors, the journal and box burning against her ribs where she'd hidden them in her bodice. Every footstep behind her sounded like pursuit. Every voice made her flinch. But she kept moving, head down, pace steady. She was 20 feet from the side exit when someone grabbed her arm. Elena spun, already reaching for the knife Rowan had given her. Easy. Marcus held up both hands. It's just me. Elena exhaled shakily. You scared me. Good. You should be scared. Lady Seraphine just tore through the main house looking for something. Whatever you took, she knows it's gone. I need to leave, now. The side door's being watched. She's got guards on every exit. Marcus glanced down the hallway. You need a different way out. There is no different way. The old tower. Elena's blood went cold. What? The old tower. The one you fell from. Marcus's expression was grim. There's a door at the base that leads to the outer grounds. Nobody uses it anymore. Nobody watches it. I can't. Elena's voice cracked. The thought of going back there, to that place. You don't have a choice, Marcus said quietly. It's the tower, or it's getting caught. Your call. Elena closed her eyes, saw herself falling, saw Seraphine's face, opened them. Show me. Marcus led her through corridors she half remembered, her dread building with each step. They emerged in a section of the estate that had been closed off, furniture covered in sheets, dust thick on the floors. The tower entrance loomed ahead. Doors at the bottom of the stairs, Marcus whispered. Go straight out to the East Gardens. From there, you're on your own. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Just run. Elena pushed open the tower door. The stairs spiraled down into darkness. She descended carefully, one hand on the wall, the journal pressed against her chest. At the bottom, just as Marcus promised, was a wooden door. Elena grabbed the handle. It didn't move, locked from the outside. No. She pulled harder. No, no, no! A sound above her, footsteps on the stairs. Check the tower? Not yet. Why would she go there? Guards, coming down. Elena looked around desperately. The door wouldn't budge. The stairs led back up to capture. There was nowhere to go. Unless... She looked up. The tower stretched above her, the same path she'd fallen 3 years ago. And suddenly, Elena understood what she had to do. She started climbing. Her legs burned, her lungs screamed. But she climbed, taking the stairs 2 at a time, racing the voices below. She burst onto the upper level, the balcony where Seraphine had pushed her. The October wind hit her like a fist. Below the gardens spread dark and infinite. Elena ran to the edge and looked down. 40 feet. The oak tree. The pond. You cannot be serious, she whispered to herself. Behind her, the guards' voices grew louder. They'd reached the stairs. Elena climbed onto the balustrade. The world tilted. Her vision swam. Every instinct screamed at her to stop, to climb down, to find another way. But there was no other way. Below, she could just make out a figure in the shadows. Rowan, where he'd promised to wait. She caught his eye, saw him realize what she was about to do. He shook his head frantically. No, don't. Elena smiled. Then she jumped. The fall lasted forever and no time at all. Wind screamed past her ears. Her stomach dropped into her feet. The tree branches rushed up to meet her. She hit them at an angle, grabbing wildly. Branches snapped. Her shoulder wrenched. But she didn't fall through. She caught, held, swung down to the next branch, and dropped into the pond with a splash that sounded like thunder. The cold water swallowed her whole. Elena surfaced, gasping, just as shouts erupted from the tower above. Hands grabbed her, Rowan, pulling her toward the bank. Are you insane? He hissed. Probably. They ran. Behind them, lights blazed in the tower. Guards poured into the gardens. But Elena and Rowan knew these grounds better than anyone. They cut through the old hedge maze over the wall Rowan had rebuilt last summer into the forest beyond. They didn't stop running until they reached the cottage. Elena collapsed inside, dripping water and shaking. Rowan slammed the door, bolted it, then turned to stare at her. You jumped, he said. I know. You jumped off the same tower that nearly killed you 3 years ago. I know. Why? Elena pulled the journal from her bodice, soaked but intact, and held it up. Because I had proof, and I wasn't losing it. Rowan stared at the journal, then at her, then started laughing. Wild, disbelieving laughter. You're completely mad. Probably, Elena agreed. She was shaking so hard her teeth chattered, adrenaline and cold warring in her blood. But we have what we need now. Do we? Yes. She opened the journal, showing him the pages. Seraphine documented everything. Names, dates, amounts. She paid people to cover up my murder. And the Duke knows someone did, Rowan added slowly. He basically told her tonight. He's been investigating. Elena felt something crack open in her chest. Hope, maybe, or vindication. All this time, he's been looking for proof. So what now? Elena stood, water pooling around her feet, and met Rowan's eyes. Now we give it to him. Now we give it to him. Rowan's expression didn't change. You want to walk up to the Duke of Thornmere and say, "Hello, I'm the dead girl. Here's a diary"? Not exactly. Good, because that's the stupidest plan I've ever heard. Elena peeled off her wet apron, fingers clumsy with cold. Adrian's investigating. He practically accused Seraphine to her face tonight. He wants the truth. Wanting and getting are different things. Rowan moved to the fireplace, building up the flames. You show up alive after 3 years. It raises questions. Where have you been? Why didn't you come forward sooner? Why should anyone believe you? Because I have proof. A journal that could be forged, a ring that could have been stolen, your word against a titled lady's. He shook his head. You need more than this? Elena's jaw tightened. Then what do you suggest? I suggest we think this through instead of rushing in like what? Like someone who spent 3 years waiting for this moment? Her voice cracked. I jumped off that tower again tonight, Rowan. I faced the thing that nearly killed me because I refused to let her win. So don't tell me to be patient. I'm done being patient. Rowan studied her face, firelight casting shadows across his features. You're not thinking straight. I'm thinking perfectly straight. No, you're angry. Angry gets you killed. I'm alive, aren't I? Barely. He pointed at the window. They'll be searching for whoever broke into that study. Seraphine knows someone took the journal. She's probably tearing the estate apart right now looking for it. As if summoning her name had power, hoofbeats thundered outside. Elena's blood froze. Rowan moved to the window, peering through the gap in the curtains. Guards, he said quietly. 4 of them, estate livery. They can't know we're here. They're searching everywhere. We're in the everywhere category. Rowan turned from the window. Hide the journal, now. Elena grabbed the leather-bound book, still damp from the pond, and looked around frantically. Under the bed, too obvious. In the cupboard, same problem. Her eyes landed on the wood stove. Don't you dare, Rowan said. I'm not burning it. She pried up one of the loose floorboards near the stove, the one Rowan used to hide money. The journal fit perfectly in the space beneath. She replaced the board just as fists hammered on the door. Open up! Estate business! Rowan and Elena exchanged a look. She was still soaking wet, hair plastered to her face, looking exactly like someone who'd recently jumped into a pond. Get in the bedroom, Rowan whispered. Change into something dry. Don't come out unless I call you. Rowan, go. Elena went. She pressed herself against the bedroom wall, listening as Rowan opened the front door. Help you? His voice was casual, bored even. We're searching properties in the area. There was an incident at Blackthorn Estate tonight. What kind of incident? That's estate business. Have you seen anyone suspicious? Anyone passing through? It's past midnight. I've been asleep. A pause. You're awake now. Because you're pounding on my door. Rowan's tone hardened. Is there an actual question, or are you just harassing people for fun? Mind if we look around? Actually, I do mind. You got a warrant? We don't need a warrant for... Yeah, you do. Duke's Law, Section 12. Can't search private property without cause or documentation. Rowan's voice carried the kind of confidence that came from being right. So unless you've got either of those things, you can get off my land. Elena heard muttering, then, We'll be back. Looking forward to it. The door closed. Footsteps retreated, but the hoofbeats didn't fade. They stopped maybe 50 yards away. Rowan appeared in the bedroom doorway. They're watching the house. For how long? Long as it takes, probably. He leaned against the doorframe. Seraphine's scared. Scared people make mistakes, but they also make things dangerous. Elena had changed into one of Rowan's old shirts and a pair of borrowed trousers, wringing water from her hair. We can't just sit here. We can't just run either. They'll chase anyone who runs. So we're trapped. We're delayed. Rowan crossed to the window, checking the guard's position. They'll get bored eventually, or they'll get called back to the estate. Either way, we wait. And if they come back with a warrant, then we have bigger problems. Elena sat on the edge of the bed, exhaustion finally catching up to adrenaline. Her shoulder ached where she'd hit the tree. Her ribs throbbed. But worse than the physical pain was the frustration eating at her insides. "I was so close," she said quietly. "I had the proof. I could have—" "You did have the proof. You still have it." Rowan sat beside her. "And you made it out alive, which is more than I expected when you jumped off that tower like a lunatic." "I had to." "I know. Doesn't make it less insane." They sat in silence for a moment, listening to the night sounds, the guards' horses shifting, a distant owl. "What did the Duke say?" Rowan asked. When he confronted Seraphine, Elena replayed the conversation in her mind. "He said he's been investigating, that he never believed my death was an accident, that money leaves traces." "Smart man." "He is." Something warm flickered in Elena's chest, quickly smothered. He looked different, older. 3 years does that. No, it was more than time. He looked... She searched for the word. Haunted. Rowan glanced at her. "You still care about him?" It wasn't a question, but Elena answered anyway. "I don't know what I feel anymore. The girl who was engaged to him died on that tower. I'm not her anymore. You're still you." "Am I?" Elena looked down at her hands, calloused, scarred, strong. She was soft, trusting. She believed people were fundamentally good. And now? Now I know better. Rowan was quiet for a moment. Knowing better doesn't mean you can't still care, just means you do it with your eyes open. Before Elena could respond, voices rose outside. Both of them tensed. Elena moved to the window, staying back from the curtain. A carriage had arrived, expensive, marked with a familiar crest. The guards were dismounting, talking to whoever was inside. The carriage door opened. Adrian Halcroft stepped out. Elena's breath caught. "What's he doing here?" Rowan whispered. "I don't know." Adrian spoke briefly with the guards, his expression unreadable in the lamplight. Then he turned and walked directly toward the cottage. "Hide," Rowan hissed. "No!" "Elena, no." She was already moving, crossing to the front room. "If he's here, I want to know why." "You can't just—" The knock came before Rowan could finish. Elena and Rowan stared at each other. 3 years of hiding, 3 years of planning. And now the Duke was standing outside the door. "This is a terrible idea," Rowan said. "Probably." Another knock. "Rowan Hale? I need to speak with you." Elena made a decision. She crossed to the door and opened it. Adrian stood on the threshold, hand raised to knock again. He froze when he saw her. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Adrian's face went through a series of expressions: shock, disbelief, something that might have been hope. His lips parted. No sound came out. "Hello, Adrian," Elena said quietly. He staggered back a step, like she'd struck him. You can't be—" "I am. You died. You fell. We searched for weeks." His voice fractured. "We buried an empty coffin." "I know." Adrian's eyes raked over her, taking in the borrowed clothes, the short hair, the scars on her hands. "What happened to you?" "Seraphine pushed me off that tower. I survived, and I've been hiding ever since." The words hung in the cold air between them. Adrian's expression hardened into something unreadable. Inside, now. It wasn't a request. Elena stepped back, letting him enter. Rowan had positioned himself near the fireplace, hand resting casually near the poker, just in case. Adrian closed the door behind him, never taking his eyes off Elena. "Start talking." So she did. She told him everything: the engagement party, Seraphine's confession on the tower, the fall, Rowan pulling her from the pond. 3 years of hiding, healing, planning. Adrian listened without interrupting, his face carved from stone. When she finished, silence filled the cottage like water. "Prove it," Adrian said finally. "What?" "Prove you're Elena Virel, not some opportunist who heard a story and decided to exploit it." The words stung, but Elena understood. Trust had to be earned. "What do you want to know?" "Something only Elena would know, something that wasn't public knowledge." Elena thought for a moment. The night you proposed, we were in the library. You were trying to recite some formal speech your aunt had written out, but you kept stumbling over the words. Finally, you gave up and just asked me straight. Will you marry me? No poetry, no grand gesture, just those 4 words. Adrian's jaw tightened. I said yes before you could finish asking, Elena continued. And you laughed, actually laughed, because you'd been so nervous. Then you kissed me, and you tasted like the brandy you'd had for courage. Your hands were shaking. Anyone could have. Your mother's name was Margaret. She loved white roses and hated dancing. She died of pneumonia during a winter storm, and you blamed yourself because you'd asked her to attend your school performance that week, and she went out in the rain to watch you. Elena's voice softened. You told me that one night when you couldn't sleep. You'd never told anyone else. Adrian's composure cracked. His eyes glistened. Elena! Her name on his lips sounded like a prayer. He crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms. Elena stiffened, 3 years of survival instincts screaming at her to fight, to run, but then she let herself fold into him. He was shaking, or maybe she was, or maybe they both were. I looked for you, Adrian whispered against her hair. I never stopped looking. I know. I heard what you said to Seraphine tonight. He pulled back just enough to see her face. You were there, in the study? Behind the bookshelf. That's how you... Understanding dawned. The journal. You took it. Yes. Do you still have it? Elena glanced at Rowan, who'd been watching this reunion with careful neutrality. He nodded. She pried up the floorboard and retrieved the journal, handing it to Adrian. He flipped through the pages, his expression growing darker with each line he read. She documented everything, names, dates, amounts. He looked up. This is enough. This is more than enough to have her arrested. Is it? Rowan spoke for the first time. Or is it just a journal that could have been written by anyone? Adrian's gaze shifted to him. You must be the one who saved her. Rowan Hale. The Duke owes you a debt. The Duke can pay it by making sure Elena doesn't get killed trying to expose her stepmother. Adrian's expression hardened. Seraphine won't touch her, not while I'm alive. Bold words. You planning to have Elena move into your estate? Surround her with guards 24 hours a day, if necessary. And when word gets out that the dead bride-to-be has magically returned, what then? You think Seraphine's just going to confess? Or is she going to claim Elena's an imposter, drag this through courts, make it he said, she said, while public opinion tears Elena apart? Adrian's jaw clenched. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that proof on paper isn't the same as proof that destroys someone. You want to take Seraphine down? You need more than a journal. You need witnesses who'll testify. You need evidence that can't be explained away. You need a trap, Elena said quietly. Both men looked at her. We need to make her confess, Elena continued, the idea forming as she spoke. Publicly, in front of witnesses who can't be bribed or silenced. How? Adrian asked. Elena smiled, but there was nothing warm in it. We give her exactly what she wants, and then we take it away. The plan came together over the next 3 hours. Adrian sent the guards away with orders to continue searching the main roads. Then he returned to the cottage, and the 3 of them worked through details by lamplight. Your wedding to Celeste, Elena said. When is it scheduled? Adrian grimaced. In 2 weeks. Seraphine's been pushing for it. I've been delaying, but she's running out of patience. Don't delay anymore. Agree to it. Absolutely not. Listen, Seraphine wants Celeste to have my life. So we let her think she's won. We let the wedding proceed. Elena, right up until the moment I walk through those cathedral doors, understanding flickered across Adrian's face, in front of everyone. Every noble, every witness, every person Seraphine spent 3 years lying to. I'll expose her where she can't run, can't hide, can't spin the story. Rowan leaned forward. It's risky. If she realizes what is happening before Elena reveals herself, she could have her killed on the spot. She won't risk it, not in front of that many witnesses. Elena's voice carried absolute certainty. Seraphine's power comes from reputation, from being seen as the devoted stepmother. If she orders my death in the middle of a cathedral, that image shatters. And Celeste? Adrian asked quietly. She's not responsible for her mother's crimes. Elena's expression softened. Celeste is a victim too. This frees her. Adrian studied the journal again, then nodded slowly. We'll need allies, people who can corroborate your story, who saw things but were too afraid to speak. Dr. Whitmore, Elena said, pointing to a name in the journal. He falsified the examination. If we can get him to confess, he won't confess voluntarily. He's been paid too well. Adrian drummed his fingers on the table. But if we offer him immunity in exchange for testimony, can you do that? I'm the Duke. I can do a lot of things. Adrian's smile was sharp. Whitmore isn't a true believer. He's a coward who took money. Cowards break easy when faced with prison. Rowan stood, pacing. What about the father, Lord Edmund? Elena's chest tightened. What about him? He's been living with Seraphine for 3 years, believing his daughter is dead. When the truth comes out, that's going to destroy him. He should have protected me. The words came out harder than Elena intended. He married her. He let her control everything. He was so lost in grief over my mother that he couldn't see what was happening right in front of him. He was grieving, Adrian said gently. So was I. I lost my mother too. But I didn't check out. I didn't hand my life over to someone who wanted me dead. The anger in her voice surprised even her. 3 years of it, buried and festering. Rowan caught her eye. You get to be angry at him. But if you want him as an ally, I don't want him as an ally. I want him to face what his negligence cost. Fair enough. Rowan turned to Adrian. So the plan is, wedding day, Elena walks in, reveals herself. Seraphine's reputation collapses. And then what? You arrest her on the spot? I'll have guards positioned throughout the cathedral. The moment Elena identifies herself, they'll detain Seraphine. Adrian looked at Elena. But you'll need to be ready. She'll fight back. She'll call you an imposter, a con artist. She'll try to turn the crowd against you. Let her try. I'm serious. This won't be easy. Nothing about the last 3 years has been easy. Elena met his gaze. I can handle whatever she throws at me. Adrian reached across the table and took her hand. His touch was warm, familiar, in a way that made her chest ache. I won't let her hurt you again, he said quietly. I know. But even as she said it, doubt whispered in the back of her mind. Because Seraphine was smart, dangerous, and cornered animals fought hardest when they had nothing left to lose. The next 2 weeks were a carefully orchestrated dance. Adrian returned to the estate and, in front of witnesses, agreed to proceed with the wedding. Seraphine's triumph was visible. She practically glowed with victory. Meanwhile, Adrian worked behind the scenes. He visited Dr. Whitmore personally, presented him with evidence from the journal, and gave him a choice: testify or face trial. Whitmore crumbled within an hour. He approached Lord Ashford next. Ashford was harder, titled, proud, with more to lose. But Adrian had leverage, debts Ashford owed, secrets he'd rather not have exposed. Ashford agreed to testify if granted immunity. The groundskeeper, Garrett, was simplest. Adrian offered him enough money to disappear after the trial, and Garrett took it without hesitation. 3 witnesses, all willing to swear that Seraphine had paid them to cover up Elena's murder. Meanwhile, Elena prepared in a different way. Rowan helped her practice her entrance, her speech, her timing. They rehearsed what she would say, how she would stand, how she would face down a woman who'd tried to kill her. Don't let her see fear, Ruds, Rowan coached. Fear is what she'll use against you. I'm not afraid of her anymore. Everyone's afraid of something. You just need to make sure she never sees it. Elena also worked on her appearance. 3 years had changed her, but she needed to look enough like the old Elena that people would recognize her. She let her hair grow out slightly, practiced moving the way she used to, softer, less guarded. It felt like putting on a costume, like pretending to be someone she'd outgrown. Adrian visited the cottage 3 more times, always after dark, always alone. He brought news, updates, reassurance. And on the third visit, Elena asked the question that had been eating at her. Why are you doing this? Adrian looked up from the papers he'd been reviewing. What? This. All of this. You could have walked away, married someone else, moved on. But instead, you've spent 3 years investigating, and now you're risking your reputation to help me. Why? He was quiet for a long moment. Do you want the diplomatic answer or the truth? The truth. Because I loved you. Past tense, Elena noted. And because what Seraphine did, pushing you off that tower, covering it up, trying to replace you with Celeste, it's evil. The kind of evil that doesn't get to win just because time passed. He met her eyes. You deserved better than what happened to you, and I failed you by not protecting you that night. You couldn't have known. I should have. I felt something was wrong. I felt it, and I ignored it because I was too busy playing the Duke, managing appearances. His voice roughened. I won't make that mistake again. Elena wanted to say something to bridge the 3 years of distance between them, but the words wouldn't come. Too much had changed. She'd changed. When this is over, she said instead, what happens to us? Adrian smiled, sad and small. I don't know, but I'd like to find out. The morning of the wedding arrived cold and clear. Elena woke before dawn, nerves singing through her body like plucked strings. Today. After 3 years of waiting, planning, surviving, today it ended. Rowan was already awake, building up the fire. Ready? No. Good. Means you're smart. He handed her a cup of tea. Smart people are scared before battles. Stupid people think they're invincible. Which one are you? Depends on the day. Elena smiled despite herself. Thank you for everything. Thank me when you're still alive tomorrow. They went over the plan one final time. Adrian would proceed with the wedding as scheduled. Elena would enter the cathedral at the precise moment the priest asked if anyone objected to the union. Dramatic, yes, but drama served a purpose. It would freeze everyone in place, buy her time to speak before Seraphine could react. At noon, Rowan drove Elena to the cathedral in a borrowed cart, taking back roads to avoid being seen. He stopped 2 blocks away. This is as close as I can get without drawing attention, he said. You'll have to walk the rest. Elena climbed down, smoothing her dress. A simple gown Rowan had acquired from somewhere, not fancy but respectable. Her hands shook. Elena. Rowan caught her wrist. If anything goes wrong, you run. You hear me? Forget pride. Forget revenge. You just run, and I'll be waiting right here to get you out. It won't go wrong. Humor me. I'll run if I need to. He released her. Make her pay. Elena walked the remaining blocks to the cathedral, each step feeling both too fast and too slow. Crowds lined the streets, nobles, commoners, everyone drawn by the spectacle of a duke's wedding. The cathedral rose ahead, massive and imposing. Music drifted from inside. She was late. Perfect. Elena climbed the steps, heart hammering. 2 guards stood at the entrance. Invitation? One asked. I don't need one. Everyone needs... He got a good look at her face and froze. You can't be... I am. Before either guard could react, Elena pushed past them and through the cathedral doors. The interior was packed. Hundreds of people filled the pews, all facing the altar where Adrian stood in formal dress. Beside him, Celeste looked beautiful in white silk, her face pale and nervous. And standing to one side, beaming with maternal pride, was Seraphine. The music swelled. The priest was speaking, his voice carrying through the vast space. And if anyone here has cause to object to this union, speak now, or I object. Elena's voice cut through the cathedral like a blade. Every head turned, the music stopped. Silence descended, so complete that Elena could hear her own heartbeat. She walked down the center aisle, every eye tracking her movement. Whispers started, spreading like wildfire. Is that... It can't be. She's dead. Elena kept walking, gaze locked on Seraphine. Her stepmother's face had gone sheet white, eyes wide with something between disbelief and terror. Hello, stepmother. Elena said, her voice carrying to every corner of the cathedral. Surprised to see me? Seraphine opened her mouth, closed it. No sound emerged. Adrian stepped forward, and Elena saw something fierce and triumphant in his expression. Lady Elena Varel, he said clearly, addressing the crowd. Alive, as you can see, against all odds. The whispers became shouts. People were standing, pressing forward, trying to see better. Seraphine finally found her voice. This is impossible. Elena died 3 years ago. This woman is an imposter. Am I? Elena pulled the engagement ring from her pocket, the one Seraphine had kept as a trophy. Then how do I have this? The ring I was wearing the night I fell? The ring that was never recovered with my body? She turned to face the crowd. Because there was no body to recover. I survived the fall from Blackthorn Tower, barely. And I've spent 3 years discovering the truth about what happened that night. You're lying, Seraphine said, but her voice wavered. You're a con artist who heard a story and decided to. Seraphine Varel pushed me off that tower. The cathedral exploded. People were shouting, guards moving forward, Celeste crying. Through it all, Elena kept her eyes on Seraphine. You pushed me, Elena repeated, louder. You told me I was never meant to have this life, that it should have been Celeste's, and then you shoved me over the edge and watched me fall. That's insane. Is it? Elena held up the journal. Then explain this. Your personal ledger, documenting every payment you made to cover up my murder. Dr. Whitmore, £200 for falsifying his examination. Lord Ashford, £500 for testifying about my supposedly fragile mental state. Garrett, the groundskeeper, £100 for disposing of evidence. Adrian stepped forward, guards flanking him. I have sworn testimony from all 3 men, ready to present to the magistrate. They've agreed to testify in exchange for leniency. They'll all swear that Seraphine Varel paid them to help cover up an attempted murder. Seraphine's composure shattered completely. You can't prove anything. This is all circumstantial. Mother? Celeste's voice was small, broken. Mother, is it true? Did you? Of course not, darling. This woman is obviously... Don't lie to her. Elena's voice cracked like a whip. Don't you dare lie to your daughter the way you lied to mine. Celeste deserves better than that. Celeste looked between her mother and Elena, tears streaming down her face. Tell me the truth, please. Did you push her? The moment stretched, taut as wire. Then Seraphine's mask of composure finally, completely broke. She was going to ruin everything. The words exploded out of her, raw and desperate. Everything I worked for, everything I built, she would have wasted it all just like her mother did. She didn't deserve that life. She was weak, soft. She would have squandered every opportunity. So you tried to kill her, Adrian said flatly. Seraphine spun to face him. I did what needed to be done. For Celeste. For the family. For yourself, Elena finished. You wanted the power, the position, and I was in your way. Guards, Adrian said quietly. Arrest Lady Seraphine Varel on charges of attempted murder. The guards moved forward. Seraphine backed away, looking around wildly for escape. But there was nowhere to go. The crowd pressed close, hostile now, no longer seeing the devoted stepmother but the monster beneath. You can't do this, Seraphine hissed. I'm a titled lady. You can't just... I'm the Duke of Thornmere, Adrian said, and I absolutely can. The guards seized Seraphine's arms. She fought, screaming obscenities, all pretense of dignity abandoned. As they dragged her past Elena, Seraphine lunged, fingers clawed, trying to scratch Elena's face. Elena didn't flinch. She just watched as the woman who'd tried to destroy her was hauled away, still screaming. Then Elena turned to Celeste. Her stepsister stood frozen at the altar, wedding dress pooling around her, face ravaged by tears. She looked young, fragile, nothing like the poised woman Seraphine had tried to mold her into. I'm sorry, Elena said quietly, meaning it. I know she's your mother, but you deserve to know the truth. Celeste made a sound, half laugh, half sob. I think part of me always knew, not the details, but I knew Mother wanted things for me that I didn't want for myself. I was too afraid to say no to her. You're free now. Am I? Celeste looked around at the chaos, the staring crowd, the shattered wedding. I don't even know who I am without her telling me. Then you get to figure it out. Elena reached out, squeezed Celeste's hand. You get to choose your own life now. That's not nothing. Celeste squeezed back, then fled toward a side exit, trailing silk and broken dreams. The cathedral slowly emptied, people leaving in clusters, already spinning the story they'd just witnessed. Elena stood in the center aisle, suddenly exhausted. Adrian approached slowly, like she might bolt if he moved too fast. You did it, he said. We did it. Elena. Footsteps echoed from the rear of the cathedral, heavy, running. Elena turned. A figure emerged from the shadows near the entrance. Not a guard. Someone else. Lord Edmund Betrayal, her father, stood at the back of the cathedral. He looked like he'd aged a decade. Hair white, face gaunt, eyes hollow. Elena? His voice broke. Is it really you? Elena's breath caught. 3 years. 3 years of abandonment, of being unmourned, of him choosing Seraphine over seeing the truth. It's me, she said. Edmund staggered forward, closing the distance between them. You're alive. My daughter is alive. He reached for her, hands shaking. We all thought. Elena stepped back. The movement stopped him cold. Where were you? Elena asked quietly. That night. Where were you when Seraphine pushed me? I was in the study, I think. Working on accounts. You were always working on accounts. Or mourning mother, or letting Seraphine handle everything. Elena's voice hardened. You checked out, Father. After Mother died, you just stopped being present, and that gave Seraphine power she used to try to kill me. I didn't know. You should have known. You should have seen what she was, but you were too lost in your own grief to notice mine. Edmund's face crumpled. I failed you. Yes, you did. Elena, please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't give me back 3 years. She turned away from him toward Adrian. Can we go? I need air. Adrian nodded, offering his arm. They walked together toward the exit, leaving her father standing alone in the empty cathedral, drowning in the consequences of his negligence. Outside, the sky had turned dark. Storm clouds gathered. Where will you go? Adrian asked. Elena looked up at the threatening sky. I don't know yet. The cottage, maybe? Or somewhere new entirely. You could stay at the estate. You'd be safe there. Would I? Elena met his eyes. Or would I just be trading one cage for another? Adrian flinched. I'm not trying to cage you. I know. But I've spent 3 years learning to survive on my own terms. I'm not ready to give that up. Then don't. He took her hands. But don't shut me out either. We can figure this out, whatever this is. Elena wanted to agree, wanted to let herself lean into him, accept the safety he offered. But something in her gut whispered caution. Before she could respond, a guard ran up, breathless. Your Grace, there's been an incident. Adrian tensed. What kind of incident? It's Lady Seraphine. During transport to the holding cells, she attacked the guards. One of them is injured, and she escaped. Elena's blood went cold. What do you mean she escaped? She had help, Your Grace. Someone was waiting with horses. They rode north toward the forest. Adrian's face hardened into something dangerous. Get every available man. Search the roads, the villages, everywhere. Adrian. Elena's voice cut through his orders. She won't run far. What? She's not done. She just confessed in front of hundreds of witnesses. Her reputation is destroyed. Celeste has abandoned her. Everything she worked for is gone. Elena's stomach twisted. Which means she has nothing left to lose. Understanding dawned in Adrian's eyes. She'll come after you. Yes. Then we get you somewhere safe. Now. But even as they moved toward his carriage, Elena knew it was too late. Because standing at the edge of the cathedral square, partially hidden in shadow, was a familiar figure. Seraphine. She was disheveled, bloody. but her eyes burned with absolute hatred, and in her hand she held a pistol. Time fractured. Elena registered details in sharp, disconnected flashes, the way Seraphine's finger rested on the trigger, the wild desperation in her eyes, the blood streaking her torn dress. Behind Elena, Adrian moved, reaching for her, but he was too slow. The pistol rose. Elena didn't think. 3 years of survival instinct took over. She dove sideways just as the shot cracked through the square. The bullet punched into the cathedral stone where her head had been a heartbeat before. Chips of masonry exploded outward. Screams erupted. People scattered. Guards shouted, drawing weapons. Elena hit the cobblestones hard, shoulder screaming in protest, but she was already rolling, getting her feet under her. Adrian was yelling something, but his words got lost in the chaos. Seraphine fired again. This bullet went wide, striking a gas lamp. Glass shattered, raining down in glittering fragments. "You ruined everything!" Seraphine's voice carried across the square, raw and ragged. "Everything I built, everything I sacrificed." Elena backed toward the cathedral steps, keeping moving, making herself a harder target. Her mind raced. Seraphine had maybe 2 more shots before she'd need to reload. 2 more chances to end this. "Put down the weapon!" A guard rushed forward, sword drawn. Seraphine swung the pistol toward him. "Stay back!" The guard froze. Elena saw her opening. While Seraphine was distracted, she grabbed a piece of broken stone from the shattered lamp and hurled it. Her aim was true. The stone caught Seraphine in the shoulder, knocking her sideways. The pistol wavered but didn't fall. "You think you've won?" Seraphine's laugh was unhinged. "You think exposing me changes anything? I still made you. Without me, you'd be nothing, just another stupid girl playing at being noble. I was never nothing." Elena's voice rang clear. "And I sure as hell was never yours." Seraphine steadied the pistol, aiming directly at Elena's chest. At this range, she wouldn't miss. "Then die knowing you wasted your second chance." Elena's muscles tensed, ready to dive again, knowing she wouldn't be fast enough this time. A figure barreled into Seraphine from the side. Rowan. He'd appeared from nowhere, tackling Seraphine to the ground. The pistol discharged wildly, the bullet screaming into the sky. They struggled, rolling across the cobblestones. Seraphine clawed at Rowan's face, screaming obscenities. He grabbed her wrists, trying to pin her, but she fought with the strength of absolute desperation. "Get the weapon!" Rowan shouted. Adrian was already moving. He kicked the pistol away from Seraphine's grasping fingers. It skittered across the square, coming to rest against a fountain. Guards swarmed in, finally galvanized into action. They hauled Seraphine to her feet, binding her wrists with iron shackles this time. No more chances for escape. Seraphine didn't stop struggling. She thrashed and spat, her composure completely shattered. "You can't do this. I'm a lady. I have rights." "You tried to murder someone in broad daylight," Adrian said flatly. "In front of half the city. I'd say your rights are currently limited." "She deserved it. She deserves to die for what she—" One of the guards, apparently tired of listening, gagged her. Elena stood on shaking legs, heart hammering so hard she could feel it in her throat. Rowan approached, sporting a fresh scratch across his cheek. "You're bleeding," Elena said. "She fights dirty." "Are you all right?" "Better than you would have been if she'd gotten that shot off." Rowan glanced at the guards hauling Seraphine away. How did she even get a pistol? Whoever helped her escape must have provided it. Adrian's jaw was tight. Which means she has allies we haven't identified yet. Or had, Rowan corrected. After tonight's performance, I'm guessing her support network just evaporated. He was probably right. Helping cover up a suspicious death was one thing. Helping a confessed attempted murderer shoot someone in public was something else entirely. Adrian turned to Elena, taking in her disheveled state. Are you hurt? No, scared but not hurt. You don't look scared. Elena laughed shakily. I'm getting good at hiding it. Too good, maybe. Adrian's hand found hers squeezed. You don't have to hide. Not anymore. But old habits died hard. Elena had spent 3 years learning that showing fear was dangerous, that vulnerability was a weapon others could use against you. Unlearning that wouldn't happen overnight. Lord Edmund pushed through the crowd, looking like death warmed over. Elena, thank heavens you're safe. Elena pulled her hand from Adrian's, turning to face her father. I'm fine. When I saw that gun, when I thought... Edmund's voice broke. I can't lose you again. You lost me 3 years ago. You just didn't notice. The words were cruel, but Elena was done protecting his feelings. He flinched like she'd slapped him. I know I failed you, Edmund said quietly. I know I can never make up for that, but please, let me try. Why now? Because it's convenient? Because your wife just tried to kill me in public and you need to save face? Because you're my daughter, and I love you. You loved Mother too. Look how well that protected her memory. Edmund absorbed that blow without defending himself. You're right, I failed her too. I let Seraphine erase her from the estate, from our lives. I was weak, cowardly. He met Elena's eyes. But I'm here now, and I'm asking, begging, for a chance to be the father you deserved 3 years ago. Elena wanted to refuse, wanted to tell him it was too late, that the damage was done. But looking at his face, genuinely broken, genuinely remorseful, she found she couldn't quite bring herself to destroy him completely. I need time, she said finally, time to figure out who I am now, what I want, and I need you to respect that I might never forgive you. I understand. Do you? Because I'm not the girl you remember. I'm harder now, colder. I've learned things about the world that can't be unlearned. Edmund nodded slowly. Then I'll learn to know the woman you've become. If you'll let me. Well, it wasn't forgiveness, but it was something. A crack in the door, if not an open invitation. Before Elena could respond, a commotion rose from the direction the guards had taken Seraphine, shouting, the sound of a scuffle. Adrian swore and took off running. Elena and Rowan followed. They found the guards clustered around a side street. Seraphine was on the ground, convulsing, foam flecking her lips. The gag had been removed. What happened? Adrian demanded. Poison, Your Grace. She had a capsule hidden in her mouth. Bit down on it before we could stop her. Elena's stomach dropped. She pushed through the guards, kneeling beside Seraphine. Her stepmother's eyes were already glazing over. Blood vessels had burst in her face, painting it in red splotches. She was dying fast. Whatever poison she'd used was potent. Why? Elena asked. Why would you? Seraphine's gaze focused on her with effort. When she spoke, her voice was a wet rasp. Prison was never an option. You could have lived, faced trial, maybe even... No. Blood trickled from the corner of Seraphine's mouth. Better to choose my own end than let them parade me like a criminal. You are a criminal. A horrible smile twisted Seraphine's face. So are you now. You think you're better, but you wanted revenge, wanted to hurt me. Her breathing was labored, rattling. We're the same, you and I. We're nothing alike. You will be. Seraphine's hand shot out, surprisingly fast for someone dying, and grabbed Elena's wrist. Her grip was weak but desperate. Years from now, when you're alone, you'll understand. Everything I did was to survive, just like you. I survived by building. You survived by destroying. Semantics. Seraphine coughed, spraying blood. In the end, we both chose ourselves over everyone else. Let go of me. Make me proud. Elena. The words were barely audible. Become what I couldn't. Then her eyes went fixed and empty, her hand falling slack. Seraphine Betrayal was dead. Elena stood slowly, wiping blood from her wrist. She felt nothing. No satisfaction, no grief, just exhaustion. Is it over? Rowan asked quietly behind her. Yes. Elena looked at the body. It's over. But Seraphine's final words echoed in her mind. We're the same. Was there truth in that? Had Elena become something dark and ruthless in her pursuit of justice? Adrian touched her shoulder. Don't listen to what she said. You're nothing like her. How do you know? Because she would have pulled that trigger. You never would. Elena wanted to believe him, but she remembered the rage she'd felt in that study, holding Seraphine's journal, the satisfaction when she'd exposed her in the cathedral, the dark part of her that had wanted Seraphine to suffer. Maybe they weren't so different after all. The city magistrate arrived within the hour, summoned by Adrian's people. He took statements from everyone: Elena, Adrian, Rowan, the guards, witnesses from the cathedral. By the time he finished, night had fallen and the square had emptied. Elena sat on the cathedral steps, too drained to move. Rowan sat beside her, equally exhausted. You should eat something, he said. I'm not hungry. You haven't eaten all day. You need fuel. I need sleep, and maybe a week where nobody tries to kill me. Fair. Rowan leaned back against the stone. What happens now? I don't know. The trial, I guess. Though with Seraphine dead, I'm not sure what there is to try. The accomplices. Whoever helped her escape provided the weapon and poison. They're still out there. Elena hadn't thought of that. Do you think they'll come after me? Depends on whether they're ideologically committed or just hired help. My money's on hired help, in which case they'll cut their losses and run. And if you're wrong, then we deal with it. Rowan glanced at her. Same way we've dealt with everything else. Adrian approached, having finished with the magistrate. I've arranged rooms at my townhouse. You should both stay there tonight. It's secure, and frankly, I don't trust that whoever helped Seraphine won't make another attempt. I'm not staying in your... Elena started. It's not a request. Someone tried to shoot you 2 hours ago. I'm not letting you wander off into the night like nothing happened. I can take care of myself. I know you can, but you shouldn't have to. Adrian's voice softened. Please, let me do this. Let me keep you safe, even if it's just for one night. Elena looked at Rowan, who shrugged. He's got a point, and I could use a real bed. So Elena agreed, too tired to argue further. Adrian's townhouse was smaller than the estate, but no less impressive. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, servants who materialized the moment they were needed. It felt alien after 3 years in Rowan's cottage. A housekeeper showed Elena to a guest room with a 4-poster bed and a private bath. The luxury of it made her skin crawl. She bathed anyway, scrubbing away the day's blood and grime. When she finally climbed into bed, clean and warm, sleep should have come easily. Instead, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Seraphine was dead. Elena had won. Justice had been served. So why did she feel so hollow? A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Elena, are you awake? Celeste's voice. Elena sat up. Come in. Her stepsister entered, still wearing the wedding dress, though she'd removed the veil and most of the jewelry. She looked lost. I'm sorry to bother you, Celeste said. I didn't know where else to go. Sit. Elena patted the bed beside her. Celeste sat, hands twisting in her lap. Is it true? About the poison? Yes. I can't believe she's really gone. Neither can I. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Celeste spoke, voice small. Was any of it real? Did she ever actually love me, or was I just a tool, a way to get what she wanted? Elena considered lying, offering comfort, but Celeste deserved truth. I think she loved you in her own way, but her love was conditional, based on you being who she needed you to be. That's not love. No, it's not. Celeste's face crumpled. I feel like I should cry, like I should be devastated, but I just feel empty. Is that wrong? No, grief isn't simple, especially when it's complicated by anger and relief and guilt all mixed together. Did you cry when you thought your mother was dead? Elena thought back to those early days after the fall. Eventually, but not right away. At first I was just numb. The crying came later. Celeste nodded. The Duke says I can stay here until I figure out what to do. Where to go? Where do you want to go? I don't know. I've never made a decision like that on my own before. Mother always decided everything. Celeste looked at Elena with red-rimmed eyes. How do you do it? Make choices for yourself? Badly, mostly. I mess up a lot, but at least they're my mistakes. A small smile tugged at Celeste's lips. That actually sounds nice. It is. Terrifying, but nice. Celeste stood to leave, then paused at the door. Elena? Thank you for telling the truth, even though it hurt. I needed to know. You're welcome. After Celeste left, Elena finally slept. The next morning brought a summons from the magistrate. He wanted Elena's formal testimony recorded for the official investigation into Seraphine's crimes. Elena spent 4 hours recounting everything: the engagement party, the tower, the fall, the 3 years in hiding. The magistrate's clerk recorded every word in neat, precise script. When it was done, the magistrate leaned back in his chair. Lady Betrayal, I must say, your ordeal has been extraordinary. The court will want to recognize your suffering with appropriate compensation. Compensation? Seraphine's assets will be seized by the Crown, as is standard for convicted criminals. Normally, these would go to the Treasury, but given the circumstances, the Duke has petitioned for them to be transferred to you instead. Elena blinked. I don't want her money. Nevertheless, you're entitled to it. Estate holdings, investments, personal effects. It amounts to a considerable sum. Give it to Celeste. The magistrate frowned. Miss Celeste has no legal claim. She's Seraphine's daughter. She lost her mother. She deserves something from this mess. That's very generous, but I don't want it, Elena repeated firmly. I want Celeste to have it, all of it. The magistrate made a note. As you wish, though I strongly advise you to reconsider. With that money, you could secure your future, purchase property, establish independence. I already have independence. Celeste needs it more. After the magistrate, Elena met with Dr. Whitmore, Lord Ashford, and Garrett separately. All three had agreed to testify in exchange for leniency, and the magistrate wanted Elena to verify their statements. Whitmore was pathetic, practically groveling. Ashford was stiff and proud, clearly humiliated. Garrett just looked tired. Why did you do it? Elena asked Garrett. You barely knew Seraphine. Why help her? Garrett shrugged. £100 is more money than I'd see in 5 years of groundskeeping. My wife was sick, needed medicine. Lady Seraphine offered cash. I took it. Did you know what you were covering up? Suspected. Didn't ask questions. Figured if I didn't know for sure, it wasn't really my fault. He met her eyes. I was wrong. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Elena believed him. Not that it changed what he'd done, but she believed the remorse was genuine. Your wife, she said. Is she better now? Died last winter. I'm sorry. Garrett's smile was bitter. Funny thing is, the medicine didn't even work. All that for nothing. Elena left feeling worse than when she'd entered. That evening, Adrian invited her and Rowan to dinner. It was a small affair, just the three of them and Celeste, who picked at her food and said little. The magistrate tells me you've given away Seraphine's assets, Adrian said. It's the right thing to do. It's also financially foolish. I've survived 3 years with nothing. I don't need her blood money now. Adrian smiled. I figured you'd say that, so I've made arrangements of my own. What arrangements? Your father's estate, your mother's estate, properly, has been badly mismanaged over the years. I've had my accountants review the books. With proper oversight, it could be profitable again. I'm proposing you take over management. Elena stared. I don't know anything about managing an estate. You know carpentry, animal husbandry, basic medicine, bookkeeping, and how to stretch a coin until it screams. That's more practical knowledge than half the titled idiots I know. Adrian leaned forward. You're smart, Elena. You survived the impossible. You can learn estate management. What about my father? He's agreed to step back. Let you run things. He'll advise if you want, but the decisions will be yours. It was more than Elena had expected, more than she dared hope for. Why are you doing this, she asked. Because you deserve it. Because your mother built that estate, and you should inherit her work, not Seraphine's. Adrian paused. And because I want you to stay. The air in the room shifted. Celeste suddenly became very interested in her wine. Rowan studied the ceiling. Adrian, I'm not proposing marriage, he said quickly. I know too much has changed. We're not the same people we were 3 years ago, but I want you in my life, Elena, however that looks. Friend, business partner, fellow noble, trying to navigate this ridiculous world. Any of it. All of it. Elena's throat tightened. I don't know if I can be what you want me to be. I don't want you to be anything except yourself. The real you. Sharp edges and all. Rowan cleared his throat. For what it's worth, he's not wrong. About any of it. You've got more spine than most nobles I've met. You'd probably run that estate better than your father ever did. High praise coming from you, Elena said. Don't get used to it. She looked at Adrian, really looked. Saw the hope in his eyes, carefully controlled but present. Saw the man who'd spent 3 years investigating her death when everyone else had moved on. I'll think about it, she said. That's all I ask. 2 days later, the formal inquest concluded. The magistrate's official ruling. Lady Seraphine Virel had attempted to murder Elena Virel, paid multiple individuals to cover up the crime, and later died by suicide while resisting arrest. The Crown acknowledged Elena's suffering and officially reinstated her title and standing. A memorial service was held for Seraphine. Small, quiet, attended by almost no one. Celeste stood alone by the grave, and Elena joined her, offering silent support. Do you hate her? Celeste asked. Elena considered. No, I pity her. She had everything, title, wealth, a daughter who loved her, but it was never enough. She always wanted more. Will I be like her? Only if you choose to be. Elena took Celeste's hand. You get to decide who you become. That's the gift of freedom. The following week, Elena moved back to her father's estate. Not to the main house. She wasn't ready for that. Instead, she took over the old gamekeeper's cottage at the edge of the property and began learning the estate's operations. Rowan came with her. Someone needs to keep you from working yourself to death, he'd said. Might as well be me. He set up a workshop in the barn, taking commissions from local gentry who'd heard about his craftsmanship. Elena threw herself into understanding crop rotations, tenant agreements, and the 1,000 small details that kept an estate functioning. Lord Edmund visited occasionally, always asking permission first, never staying long. Slowly, carefully, they rebuilt something that might eventually become a relationship. Adrian visited too, more frequently, helping Elena navigate the political complexities of noble society. He never pushed for more than she offered, but the attraction between them, changed but still present, hummed like an unspoken current. 3 months after the cathedral confrontation, Elena stood in the estate's main office, reviewing ledgers. A knock interrupted her. Come in. Adrian entered, looking pleased. I have news. The Crown has formally recognized your management of the estate. You're now officially Lady Elena Virel, estate holder in your own right. No guardian, no overseer, just you. Elena set down her pen, absorbing that. Really? Really? You're independent. Free to make your own decisions about everything. Finances, marriage, alliances, all of it. That's incredible. You earned it. Adrian moved closer. There's something else. The king wants to acknowledge what you endured publicly. He's planning a formal ceremony, public recognition of your courage, your survival. It would reestablish you in society completely. Elena's stomach twisted. A ceremony means crowds. Attention. I know you hate both, but it also means no one can ever question your legitimacy again. No whispers about whether you're really Elena Virel, no doubts about your right to this estate. He was right, and Elena knew it. When? Next month, at court. Will you be there? Only if you want me to be. Elena met his eyes. I want you to be. Adrian's smile was warm. Then I'll be there. The ceremony took place on a clear spring morning. Elena wore a gown the color of deep emerald, chosen because she liked it, not because anyone told her to. Her hair was dressed simply. No jewelry except her mother's locket, which she'd reclaimed from the estate. The king's throne room was packed. Nobles, merchants, clergy, everyone who mattered had turned out to witness Lady Elena Virel's official return. Elena walked the length of the hall, head high, shoulders back. She'd survived a 40-foot fall. She could survive this. The king himself, an older man with kind eyes, smiled as she approached. Lady Varel, it is our great pleasure to formally recognize your courage and resilience. You have endured trials that would break most people, yet you stand before us undefeated. The crown acknowledges your strength and welcomes you back to your rightful place in society. He gestured, and a servant brought forward a velvet cushion. On it rested a medal, gold and sapphire, beautiful in its simplicity. We award you the Order of Merit for exceptional courage in the face of mortal danger. Wear it with pride. The king himself pinned it to her gown. The room erupted in applause. Elena looked out at the sea of faces, saw her father, tears streaming down his face, saw Celeste, clapping enthusiastically, saw Rowan near the back, grinning, and saw Adrian in the front row, pride written all over his face. She'd done it. She'd reclaimed her life. Not the life that had been stolen from her, that was gone forever, but a new one, built on her own terms. The girl who'd fallen was truly dead now. The woman who survived had taken her place. The woman who survived had taken her place. But standing in the king's throne room, metal heavy against her chest, Elena realized something crucial. Survival wasn't the same as living. She'd reclaimed her name, her estate, her standing. Now she needed to figure out what to do with them. The reception after the ceremony was endless. Elena shook hands until her fingers ached, accepted congratulations from people she didn't know, endured pointed questions about her mysterious absence that she deflected with practiced ease. Where exactly were you all this time? Recovering. It was a difficult period. But surely someone must have seen you. The past is the past. I'd rather focus on the future. It was exhausting. Elena escaped to a balcony the first chance she got, gulping fresh air like a drowning woman. Hiding already? Adrian joined her, carrying 2 glasses of wine. We've only been here 2 hours. 2 hours too long. Elena accepted the wine gratefully. Do they always ask such invasive questions? Always. Court is just polite interrogation disguised as conversation. Adrian leaned against the balustrade. You handled it well, though. Better than I expected. Low expectations? Realistic expectations. You've been out of society for 3 years. Most people would struggle. Elena sipped her wine. I've gotten good at pretending. 3 years of hiding teaches you to lie convincingly. That's not lying. That's protecting yourself. Is there a difference? Adrian considered. Intent, maybe. Lying is about deception. What you're doing is maintaining boundaries. People aren't entitled to your whole story just because they're curious. Elena appreciated that distinction. She looked out over the palace gardens, watching nobles mill about below like colorful birds. Do you ever get tired of it? The performance? Every day. But it's the price of the position. Adrian turned to face her. Though I'll admit it's less tiresome when you have someone who understands it beside you. The implication hung in the air between them. Adrian, I know, you're not ready. Maybe you'll never be ready, and that's fine. But I need you to know that what I feel for you, it didn't die with the girl who fell from that tower. It changed, yes, but it didn't disappear. Elena's chest tightened. I'm not who you fell in love with. No, you're someone better, stronger, more yourself. Adrian's voice was quiet. The Elena I knew 3 years ago was lovely, but she was also performing, trying to be what everyone expected. This Elena, the one who jumped off a tower to escape guards, who built a life from nothing, who stood in a cathedral and faced down her would-be murderer. She's real, and I think I love her more. Elena's throat closed. That's not fair. What isn't? Saying things like that when I don't know what I want yet? Then take time to figure it out. I'm not going anywhere. Before Elena could respond, Rowan appeared in the doorway. Hate to interrupt, but someone's asking for you, says it's urgent. Elena frowned. Who? Celeste. They found her in a sitting room, pacing frantically. Her face was blotchy from crying. What happened? Elena asked. It's the estate, Seraphine's estate, the one that was supposed to go to me. Celeste's voice shook. There's a problem with the will. Someone's contesting it. Who? Seraphine's brother, Uncle Marcus. I've never even met him, but apparently he has a legal claim. His solicitor sent a letter saying he intends to challenge the transfer. Says I'm not entitled to anything because, she choked on the words, because I'm illegitimate. The room went silent. What? Elena said finally. Celeste collapsed into a chair. Mother lied. About everything. She wasn't married to my father, whoever he was. She fabricated the marriage documents when she came to your estate. I'm a bastard, Elena, which means legally I have no claim to anything. Adrian swore softly. Did the solicitor provide proof? Parish records, or lack thereof. There's no record of a marriage. No record of my father at all. Celeste looked up, eyes red. Mother built her entire life on lies, and now I'm paying for it. Elena sat beside her, taking her hand. We'll fight this. Adrian, there must be legal recourse. There might be. If we can prove Lord Edmund accepted Celeste as family, treated her as a daughter, there could be grounds for... He didn't, though. Celeste's laugh was bitter. He was polite, but distant. Never acknowledged me as anything except Mother's daughter. And now Uncle Marcus is using that against me. How much does he want? Rowan asked. Everything. The assets, the investments, even Mother's personal effects. Celeste's hands twisted in her lap. I'll have nothing. Nowhere to go. That's not true, Elena said firmly. You'll stay at my estate for as long as you need. I can't ask you to... You're not asking, I'm offering. Your family, Celeste, complicated, messy, not quite official family, but family nonetheless. Celeste's eyes filled with fresh tears. After everything Mother did to you, you're not your mother. You never were. Elena squeezed her hand. And you're not facing this alone. Adrian cleared his throat. There might be another option. If Lord Edmund were to formally adopt Celeste, that would give her legal standing. She'd be his daughter-in-law as well as fact. He'd never agree to that, Celeste said. Have you asked him? No, but then let's ask. Elena stood. Where is he? They found Lord Edmund in the palace library, looking uncomfortable in his formal clothes. He stood when they entered, concern crossing his face. Elena, what's wrong? She explained the situation quickly. Her father's expression grew grimmer with each word. I didn't know about the marriage documents, he said quietly. Seraphine showed me papers. I never thought to verify them. That's the past, Elena said. The question is what happens now? Edmund looked at Celeste, who stood near the door looking like she wanted to disappear. You want me to adopt you? Formally? I don't want to impose it. That's not what I asked. Edmund's voice was gentle. Do you want to be my daughter? Legally? Officially? Celeste's composure cracked. Yes, if you'll have me. Edmund crossed to her, and for the first time since Elena had returned, she saw real emotion in his face. Then consider it done. You're already family. We'll just make it official. Celeste sobbed into his shoulder. Elena watched, feeling something complicated shift in her chest. Her father was trying, really trying. Maybe that was enough for now. Adrian smiled. I'll have my solicitors draw up the papers. We can have this settled within the week. What about Uncle Marcus? Celeste asked. Let him contest. Once the adoption is finalized, his claim becomes irrelevant. You'll be Lord Edmund's daughter and Elena's sister. The assets will transfer to you legally. Relief flooded Celeste's face. Thank you, all of you. Elena hugged her. That's what family does. The adoption was finalized 6 days later. Marcus contested it, as expected, but his solicitor withdrew the challenge when faced with the Duke's legal team. Celeste became Celeste Varel officially, with all the rights and standing that entailed. She chose to stay at Elena's estate rather than return to the main house. Too many memories, she explained. I need somewhere that feels new. So the gamekeeper's cottage became home to an odd little family, Elena, Celeste, and Rowan, who'd claimed the barn as his permanent workshop. It shouldn't have worked, but somehow it did. Spring turned to summer. Elena threw herself into estate management with the same intensity she'd once applied to survival. She renegotiated tenant agreements, implemented crop rotations Rowan had learned in his travels, and slowly turned the failing estate profitable again. Lord Edmund visited weekly, never staying long but always present. They talked about the weather, the crops, neutral things. Slowly the conversations deepened. He told her about her mother, about the early days of their marriage. Elena listened, learning to know the woman she barely remembered. "She would be proud of you," Edmund said one afternoon. They were walking the estate grounds, reviewing irrigation plans. "Your mother. She always believed in building things that lasted. Is that why you married Seraphine? Because you thought she'd build?" Edmund flinched but didn't avoid the question. "I married Seraphine because I was drowning in grief, and she offered stability. I thought she'd help preserve what your mother built. Instead," he trailed off. "Instead, she tried to destroy it." "Yes." Edmund stopped walking, turning to face her. "I failed you, Elena. I know I did. I was so lost in missing your mother that I couldn't see what was happening right in front of me. I should have protected you, should have seen Seraphine for what she was. Yes, you should have. Can you ever forgive me?" Elena thought about that, about forgiveness and what it meant. "I don't know. Maybe someday, but I don't think we can go back to being what we were." "I don't want to go back. I want to move forward, build something new." Edmund's voice was quiet. "If you'll let me." Elena considered. "We can try. No promises. That's all I ask." It was a start, not reconciliation, but not estrangement either. Something in between, fragile and new. Adrian visited most frequently of all. At first, his excuses were business, estate matters, legal questions, introductions to useful contacts, but gradually the visits became less about business and more about just being together. They rode through the estate fields, discussing everything and nothing. They played chess in the evenings, arguing over strategy. They attended social functions together, presenting a united front to society's endless scrutiny, and slowly, Elena realized she looked forward to his visits. Missed him when he was gone. Felt more herself when he was near. It terrified her. "You're falling for him again," Celeste observed one evening. They were in the cottage garden, Elena supposedly weeding but mostly staring into space. "I don't know what I'm doing." "That's obvious. You've been pulling the same weed for 10 minutes. Elena looked down. Celeste was right. "It's complicated. Love usually is." "Who said anything about love?" Celeste gave her a look. "You light up when he visits. You're miserable when he leaves. You've worn the same dress 3 times this week, the green one he said he liked. If that's not love, it's doing a very convincing impression." Elena sat back on her heels. "I'm scared." "Of what?" "Of becoming who I was before. That soft, trusting girl who got pushed off a tower because she didn't see danger coming. You could never be her again. You've changed too much." Celeste pulled a particularly stubborn weed. "But being strong doesn't mean being alone. You can be both, strong and in love. They're not mutually exclusive." "When did you get so wise?" "When I stopped trying to be who my mother wanted and started being myself." Celeste smiled. "You taught me that, actually." That conversation stayed with Elena. That night, unable to sleep, she walked out to the old tower, the one she'd fallen from. She hadn't been back since returning to the estate. The tower looked smaller than she remembered, less terrifying, just old stones and memories. Elena climbed the stairs slowly, heart pounding despite herself. When she reached the balcony where Seraphine had pushed her, she stopped. The view was beautiful. Gardens spreading below, the forest beyond, stars overhead. She'd been too scared to notice it before. "I wondered if I'd find you here." Elena spun. Adrian stood at the top of the stairs. "How did you know? You've been avoiding this place for months. I figured eventually you'd need to face it." He approached carefully, like she might bolt. "Mind if I join you?" "It's your estate, technically." "It's yours. I'm just a frequent visitor." Elena turned back to the view. Adrian came to stand beside her, close enough to touch but not touching. "I keep expecting to still be afraid," Elena said quietly. "Of heights. Of this place. Of what happened. But I'm not. I'm just tired of it having power over me. So you're taking the power back? Trying to. They stood in comfortable silence for a while. Then Adrian spoke. I'm leaving for the capital next week. Council business. I'll be gone for at least a month. Elena's stomach dropped. Oh. I was hoping you'd come with me. She looked at him surprised. Why? Because councils are boring and you make them tolerable. Because you should meet the other nobles who actually matter. Because I want you there. Adrian turned to face her fully, and because I'm tired of pretending this is just friendship. Adrian, I love you, Elena, not who you were, but who you are. And I hope you might feel the same. But I need to know. Because if this is just friendship to you, I'll accept that. I'll step back, give you space. But if there's any chance you feel even a fraction of what I feel, I need you to tell me. Elena's heart hammered. This was the moment. The choice. She could step back, protect herself, stay safe in the walls she'd built, or she could jump. I'm terrified, she said. I know. Last time I trusted someone, I ended up at the bottom of a tower. I'm not Seraphine. I know that too. But fear isn't logical. Adrian's expression softened. Then let me prove it. Come to the capital. Spend time with me. No pressure, no expectations. Just see what happens. Elena thought about Celeste's words, about being strong and in love, about the fact that she'd survived the impossible and maybe, just maybe, she deserved something good. All right, she said, I'll come. Adrian's smile was brilliant. Really? Really? But I'm bringing Rowan. Why? Because he'll tell me if you're being an idiot, and he makes better traveling conversation than most nobles. Adrian laughed. Deal. Then, slowly, giving her time to pull away, he leaned forward and kissed her. It was nothing like their first kiss 3 years ago. That had been tentative, sweet, the kiss of two people still figuring each other out. This was fire and certainty. The kiss of two people who'd survived hell and found each other on the other side. When they finally pulled apart, Elena was breathless. So, Adrian said, still terrified. Absolutely. Good. Means you're alive. The trip to the capital was everything Elena expected, and nothing like it at the same time. The council sessions were indeed boring, hours of nobles arguing over tariffs and territorial disputes. But the evenings were different. Adrian showed her the city properly this time. Not the formal ballrooms and ceremonies, but the real places. Street markets where vendors sold spiced wine and meat pies. Theaters where plays ranged from tragedy to bawdy comedy. Libraries that smelled of old paper and possibility. They talked about everything. Her plans for the estate, his responsibilities as duke, their shared frustrations with society's expectations, their fears and hopes, and the complicated space between who they'd been and who they were becoming. Rowan, dragged along as promised, spent most of his time in the artisan quarter making contacts and complaining about nobles and their endless talking. Do you ever actually do anything? He asked one evening. Or just discuss doing things? Both, Adrian replied. Simultaneously, it's a skill. It's exhausting. But even Rowan had to admit the capital had its charms. He returned from one excursion with plans for a new type of joint work he'd learned from a master carpenter. He was practically vibrating with excitement. This could revolutionize furniture construction, he said, showing Elena sketches. Stronger, more stable, uses less material. You're adorable when you're nerding out about carpentry, Elena said. I hate you. No, you don't. No, I don't. But I hate that you're right. 3 weeks into their stay, Elena received an unexpected visitor. Her father had come to the capital. They met in one of the palace's smaller receiving rooms. Edmund looked nervous. I hope I'm not intruding, he said. You're not. What brings you here? I wanted to talk to you properly, without the estate between us. Edmund sat, looking older than Elena remembered. I've been thinking about what you said, about moving forward, building something new. And I realize I don't know how. I spent so long living in the past, mourning your mother, that I forgot how to be present, how to be a father. He met her eyes. I want to learn, if you'll teach me. Elena's throat tightened. I don't know if I can teach you that. Then let me just be here. Let me show up, even when it's awkward. Let me try to be the father I should have been 3 years ago. It wasn't a grand gesture, wasn't a complete transformation, but it was honest, real. All right, Elena said, we'll try. Edmund's relief was visible. Thank you. They talked for an hour after that, stilted at first, then easier. Edmund told her about his own father, about the pressure to maintain the family name, about how he'd never quite felt adequate. Elena talked about her plans for the estate, about the changes she wanted to implement. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was connection. And sometimes that was enough. When Elena returned to the estate a month later, something had shifted. Not just in her relationship with Adrian, though that was definitely changing, but in how she saw herself. She wasn't the girl who'd fallen anymore, wasn't even the woman who'd survived. She was Elena Varel, estate holder, sister, daughter in a complicated way, possibly in love, though she was still figuring out what that meant. She was herself. Finally, fully, completely herself. The summer progressed. The estate flourished under Elena's management. Celeste found her footing, taking over the household accounts and discovering she had a genuine talent for numbers. Rowan's workshop became successful enough that he hired 2 apprentices. And Adrian. Adrian became a constant, not living at the estate, but visiting so frequently he might as well have been. They fell into a rhythm, working together during the day, talking late into the evenings, stealing moments alone when they could. It wasn't perfect. They argued about politics and laughed at nothing and occasionally drove each other crazy. But it was real, and Elena had learned that real mattered more than perfect. One evening in early autumn, Adrian found Elena in the estate's library. She was reviewing crop yield reports, hair falling out of its pins, ink smudged on her cheek. "You look busy," he said. "Always. The harvest estimates are higher than expected. We might actually turn a significant profit this year." "That's wonderful." Adrian sat beside her. "I have something to ask you." Elena set down her pen. "That sounds ominous." "Not ominous, just important." Adrian took her hands. "I know we've been taking this slowly, and I know you're still figuring out what you want, but I need you to know that I'm certain about you, about us, about wanting to build a life together." Elena's heart started hammering. "Adrian, I'm not proposing, not yet, not until you're ready." He squeezed her hands. "But I want you to know my intentions. I want to marry you, Elena, when you're ready, if you're ever ready, and if you're not, I'll still be here. Because loving you isn't conditional on you loving me back the same way." Elena's eyes burned. "That's not fair." "What isn't?" "Being so perfect about this." "I'm not perfect. I'm patient. There's the difference." Elena laughed shakily. "I do love you. I think I have for a while now. I was just too scared to admit it. And now? Now I'm still scared, but I'm tired of letting fear make my decisions." Elena took a breath. "So yes, someday, when we're both ready, I want to marry you too." Adrian's smile could have lit the entire estate. "Someday works for me." They kissed, long and deep, the library fading away until there was just the 2 of them, and this moment and the future stretching ahead, uncertain but theirs. When they finally pulled apart, Elena rested her forehead against his. "We should probably wait at least a year. Let the scandal die down. Give society time to accept that I'm not some tragic ghost story." "Agreed, though I reserve the right to propose whenever I want. As long as you're prepared for me to say not yet a few times." "I can handle that." They stayed in the library until late, making plans that might change, dreaming dreams that might fail, but doing it together. The wedding, when it finally happened 18 months later, was nothing like the one that had been interrupted 3 years before. It was small, intimate, just close friends and family in the estate's garden, rather than a massive cathedral production. Elena wore her mother's wedding dress, altered to fit her changed frame. Celeste stood as her witness. Rowan gave her away, grumbling about formal clothes the entire time. Lord Edmund attended, sitting quietly in the second row, tears streaming down his face. They'd rebuilt their relationship slowly, carefully. He'd never be the father she'd needed as a child, but he was becoming the father she could accept as an adult. Sometimes that was enough. Adrian looked at Elena like she hung the moon. Elena looked back and saw a partner, not a savior, someone to build with, not someone to complete her. The vows they exchanged were simple, traditional words with personal meaning. When the officiant pronounced them married, the small gathering applauded. Elena and Adrian walked back up the aisle together, past the gardens where she'd once hidden from parties, past the tower where she'd nearly died, into a future they'd built together. The reception was held in the estate's main hall, which Elena had slowly reclaimed and transformed. Her mother's portrait hung again above the fireplace. Seraphine's influence had been methodically erased, replaced with something warmer, more genuine. Late in the evening, Elena found herself on the terrace, the same terrace where Seraphine had confronted her years ago. But tonight it held no ghosts, just cool air and distant music and the murmur of happy voices. Hiding from your own wedding? Celeste joined her, wine glass in hand. Just taking a moment. It's been a long day. A good day, though. The best. Elena smiled. How are you holding up? Better than expected. Though I still can't believe you actually got married before me. Give it time. Someone will catch your eye eventually. Celeste laughed. Maybe, though I'm in no rush. I'm still figuring out who I am without Mother's voice in my head. How's that going? Slowly, but I'm getting there. Celeste touched Elena's arm. Thank you for everything, for giving me a home, for showing me what family could actually be. You're my sister. In all the ways that matter. They hugged, and Elena felt gratitude wash over her. For Celeste, for Rowan, for her father's attempts at redemption, for Adrian's patience and love, for the second chance she'd fought so hard to claim. Adrian appeared in the doorway. There you are. Everyone's asking for the bride. Tell them she's taking a moment to breathe. I did. They're giving you 5 minutes before they come looking. Adrian joined them at the railing. Everything all right? Everything's perfect. Elena took his hand. Or as close to perfect as real life gets. I'll take it. Celeste excused herself, leaving them alone. Elena leaned into Adrian, letting herself feel the weight of the day settle. Do you ever think about that night? She asked quietly. The engagement party? Sometimes. Why? I wonder what would have happened if Seraphine hadn't pushed me, if we'd just gotten married as planned. You'd probably be miserable. That version of you was trying so hard to be what everyone expected. She would have suffocated eventually. And you? I would have loved her, but I wouldn't have known her, not really. Adrian turned to face Elena fully. This version of us, built on truth and survival and choosing each other despite everything, it's better. Harder, but better. Elena knew he was right. The easy path had been closed to her 3 years ago, but the hard path had led somewhere real. Come on, Adrian said. Let's go back inside. Our guests are waiting. In a minute, I want to remember this. Remember what? This feeling, this moment, standing here with you, knowing that I built this life instead of having it given to me. Knowing that every hard choice, every scary moment, every time I wanted to give up but didn't, it all led here. Adrian pulled her close. We built it together. We did, didn't we? They stood there for another moment, wrapped in each other and the quiet night, before returning to the celebration. The party continued late into the evening. There was dancing and laughter and toasts that ranged from heartfelt to ridiculous. Rowan made a speech that was equal parts touching and embarrassing. Lord Edmund tried to speak and broke down crying. Celeste rescued him with grace and humor. When Elena and Adrian finally left for the Duke's estate, their estate now, shared between 2 properties and 2 lives merging into one, the stars were out and the night was clear. Happy? Adrian asked as their carriage pulled away. Terrified, Elena admitted, but also happy. Both things at once. Good, means you're paying attention. Elena laughed and kissed him, and the future spread ahead of them like an unwritten page. Years later, when people asked Elena about her story, about the fall, the survival, the return, She would smile and say it wasn't really about revenge or justice or even love, though all of those played their parts. It was about reclaiming yourself when the world tried to erase you, about building something real from the ashes of what was destroyed, about learning that strength wasn't the absence of fear, but acting despite it. The tower still stood on the estate grounds. Elena never had it torn down, despite suggestions. It served as a reminder, not of what had nearly destroyed her, but of what she'd survived. Sometimes, on quiet evenings, she'd climb to the balcony and look out over the estate she'd rebuilt, the life she'd claimed, the family she'd created from scattered pieces. The girl who'd fallen was gone. The woman who'd survived had moved on. But the woman who'd risen from that fall, stronger, wiser, unapologetically herself, she remained, and she would never fall again.